That's true.
All right, we're going to get started. Okay, before we get started, I'm going to pray. Does that sound like a plan? Okay, we're missing a lot of people. Half of our class is missing. Half of our class. All right. Jesus, I thank you so much for tonight. I thank you, Lord, that the Bible says that you are the Word made flesh, dwelt among us. And I thank you that we just are able to embrace something new about writing, the importance of it, Lord, and how you view it, Father God, in a way that we probably never thought about writing and thinking before. And I just love you, God, and we just thank you for each person here. I pray for anyone out on the roads right now that you keep them safe, Lord, that they use wisdom as they drive. I pray for Mindy as she's heading her way this way, that you just keep her safe and help it to dry up before she has to run in here. And I just thank you for tonight and bless each one of us in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
All right, so welcome to English Comp 101. I will say right up front, I've asked before, this is more of a writing, the way you think about writing class. We will touch on some of the mechanics of writing, but that is not going to be our drive in this class. And so just a little bit about myself. I don't want to get off track. So I'll give you it's fun to do class in here because we know each other pretty much. We've eaten dinner together. We work together, so that it's fun to be in a class with people who you know pretty well and they know you. But just to get started, for those who are online, we just want to welcome people who are online. We do have some students who are online who are not even in this state. I think you guys have probably seen her on Mia. She's a girl that's always on the threads. I think she's in California, maybe. So, hello, Mia, if you're here. And so, anyway, my name is Angela Cook, as you know, and I am here on staff at East Coast Christian Center. And so, just a little bit about my background and why I'm here as an instructor. I actually have a background as a high school teacher. And so before I became a mom, I was a high school teacher here in Brevard County at Cocoa Beach Junior Senior High School. And so I really enjoyed that. But then I started having my own children and decided to become a homeschool mom. So I'm actually a home educator currently with my 4 kids, ages 9 up to 15. And so I'm pretty much I spend most of my days teaching, not formally, but that's pretty much our life. Books. If you came over right now, my table is covered with books, and so that's life in my house. So I'm excited I get to do this, which is a little more exciting because I actually get to organize things, and that's always fun. Whereas with homeschooling, you never know what you're going to get with all your kids. And you may find a week after you thought they were doing all their work, they actually weren't. They were drawing pictures and writing scripts for plays they're writing. So who the heck knows? So that's a little bit of my background as far as teaching is concerned. And I have honestly never been the best English composition student. I thought it was boring. I love writing though, which is funny because I love writing, but I didn't do it well enough to be considered a good writer. And so then I just wrote everybody off. I was like, fine, you don't like how I write? Tough. And I had the same issue all through high school, through college. I always would change tense. And I'd get all of my papers until I got into my last 2 years of college and I had to start writing way more. I always got those red marks until I had to write a lot. And then I was like, oh, okay, now I get it. And it was more hands-on for me. The teacher could have told me all the live long day how to write, but until I had to do it myself and get corrected, I was not the best student of English. So that's just a little bit about my weaknesses. Yeah. Okay, so anyway, we're going to talk a little bit about, let me find, where did it go? Oh well, I'll just use these. All right, we're going to go over our syllabus so you know what to expect, and then we're also, did you set a timer?
That's 7:45.
Yeah, that works. We're going to go over our syllabus and then this new thing called a rubric.
What?
Write down a rubric.
Got it.
If you have a teaching background, you know what a rubric is. All right, so a little bit first, Angela Cook, ways you can reach me. You can reach me at my email at acook@eccc, or you can call me or text pretty much anytime. I'm pretty open. When I go to bed at night, I put my phone away. so you can text me all evening, and if I'm not up, I'm not answering you. So if you have a question that comes to you in the middle of the evening when you're trying to do your homework, and I'm not gonna answer you, but feel free to send it to me and I'll answer you when I can. So, and I'm pretty good at it though. I don't leave you hanging for 2 or 3 days. So that's how you can contact me if you have any questions. So the course purpose, the purpose of our course, basically the expectations. You'll be exposed to a new perspective and appreciation for the writing process. We're going to talk a lot about that tonight. We're going to use various technological tools to explore resources that will assist you in your personal writing process. You all know the little orange squiggly lines under words when you're typing on a computer. Well, that sounds so silly. There are so many tools to help you be a better writer than you ever thought you could be. So many tools now in this day and age where you just copy and paste things into a program online and it'll tell you exactly what you're doing and what you need to fix and what is wrong and spell, all sorts of things. And they're free. So we'll talk about that. We will review various grammar language rules as well as formats of writing papers and essays. Note it says review with the understanding that we have some maybe baseline of grammatical knowledge, but we'll talk about that in a few minutes. And it also shows you we're not going to spend a ridiculous amount of time in the stuff that makes you want to put your head down on the table and go to sleep. Student will understand and use writing strategies and processes to analyze and write about issues that are important to specific audiences and specific purposes. And we will gain a strong awareness of your own development as a writer. So those are some of the expectations, things you can, where did I put my book? Y'all, I am just a hot mess. So there is a text for this class. It is not required. It's just what I use to get information for you. I would, though, say if this is an awesome book to have just on your bookshelf. It's not bad. It's just one of those, almost like having a dictionary or an encyclopedia on your bookshelf. But I will say, just like dictionaries and encyclopedias, thesauruses, all that, you can get almost every ounce of this information right online if you want it. So that's why I didn't require text, because you really can Google. If you really want to know how to use a comma correctly, you literally can Google that on Google and find out how to use a comma properly. So there's really no excuses for not writing well, or at least trying. Doesn't mean you will, but at least you can try. So if you want this book for your bookshelf, I suggest getting it. If not, you can find a lot of that information right online. So that is our unexpected text. All right, let's see, not required. Course terms: attend all classes, listen online, participate and engage in discussion. So we're using a chat just like most of the classes do. We'll be using a chat also. Weekly, we'll just have a little bit of dialogue. It won't be anything intensive, but we'll have some dialogue. Like this week, I'm going to have you read 3 very short articles. I think total it will take like 7 minutes to read all 3 of them. So you'll read a few articles, and then we're going to just discuss what was in those articles, and it will go along sort of with what we're talking tonight, just to get you thinking. And then participate and engage in class discussion, peer activities, complete weekly assignments and our quizzes. Again, all of this, you guys you're in this, so you've been in classes, you know what to do online. That's what you're going to be doing. And then we're going to complete a 2-page essay implementing the practices learned during this class. The nice thing is, I'm going to provide you the topic. I'm going to be providing you a topic. And is that someone's phone that keeps ringing? Do you keep hearing that bell ringing? Our angels are like seriously going to heaven.
I heard something.
Have you been hearing that?
The last time, yeah.
It's like angelic. Oh well, it's coming from over there.
It's not my phone, is it?
I don't know.
No, mine's in my pocket. You wouldn't be able
The
to.
I feel
bell
like
is probably the doorbell on the food
Because
pantry.
I do have Tinkerbells, but it's.
Food pantry bell.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so something we're going to be implementing in this class for sure, and I've actually encouraged other instructors here at East Coast to use what is called a rubric when they are grading your papers. The reason for this is because, and no one in here may have had this situation, but have any of you ever written a paper for one of your courses here and you maybe, let's just say you got a C and you don't know why?
Oh, I know why. It was your husband. No.
So, I will say though, Jim, you might know why, but, so this little paper
It didn't make
though,
any sense. It didn't go from A to B to C. It went from like A to Z and back to middle school,
sure, so you had a hard time staying on topic.
I guess.
Yeah, maybe. So, but some people might not understand, like they'll turn in something that means a lot to them, and they really did take time to write something, and to them it was really good. It was like, wow, this is excellent information. And when they read it, they were like, and then they had their spouse read it, and they're supposed to like, this is so good. But then they turn in, the teacher's like, So it is just like when you sing or when you play an instrument or you do anything that's personal, it's hard to get critique on that and understand like exactly why. Well, when you're writing a paper, the only problem with that is if you have content, but maybe it doesn't flow well,
That's the
it's
word they use.
hard on the reader and they aren't in your brain. So what a rubric does is it helps your instructors kind of go through, while I'm grading your paper, I'm gonna go through this. In each one of these columns, I give you the criteria of what I'm looking for. I'm looking for an introductory paragraph, because I'm actually gonna have you set up a 2-page essay as a 5-paragraph essay, because a 5-paragraph essay is the baseline. How many of you actually took English comp in college? Yeah, so you know that a 5-paragraph essay is the baseline for anything you'll ever write, because you have an introductory paragraph or a thesis statement, and then you have supporting information, which in a 5-paragraph essay is only 3 paragraphs. But in a dissertation or something else, it could be pages. Supporting information, and then of course you need to have some knowledge of using grammar properly in order to relay your information correctly. Did you have it? And so, one sec, Jim. And then, so one of your other criteria, grammar, spelling, and then word choice, vocabulary. And what I'll do is you can look at these. We won't go through every single one of them, but if I'm looking at your paper and I see the thesis statement is unclear, incorrectly placed, and is not restated in your closing paragraph, and your supporting ideas are unclear. So today I'm going to talk about dogs. And the cat in the neighbor's yard really is loud at night. And already I've lost you. Like, what in the heck am I even talking about? You're going to get 1 point. Because, I mean, at least you wrote something down. But your idea is not clear. Your supporting paragraphs are not clear. So you're going to get a 1. So I'll go through the paper and I will see where you fit in this rubric. And I'll mark 1 here. I'll put a line through that. And then, but maybe each paragraph had a topic sentence. Maybe it supported something but wasn't great. If you got a 1 on the first criteria, then you probably won't get a 4 on the next one. But maybe, just maybe, you have a 1 on introductory paragraph, supporting details, grammar, but your spelling is amazing. You will get a 4. But that means out of 20 points, you may only get like 7 out of 20. If you do the math, 7 out of 20 is not an A. So that's how I will be grading your writing. So that then when it's done, I'll either email this back to you if you've sent it through the ISIS thing, whatever it's called. I say it wrong every time. The Campus Assist or whatever. If it's digital, I'll send you a digital formatted copy and I'll tell you why and how I pointed. So then you can look back and say, okay, now I get why maybe I didn't get the A. Because a lot of people, not everybody, I'm with you, wants an A. And so if you're really after the A, I'm the kind of student that I looked at the rubric and I'm like, what do I have to do to just pass it? All right, I need a 3 on that. Okay, if I just get 16 out of 20, I'm good. Like, I really was one of those kind of people because I just wanted to get the work done. And so you might be like that. If you are, that's okay too, because you're here. What now?
Does this reflect what Marvin has under resources on campuses?
Campuses, yes.
Or it
So
does?
Marvin and I spoke about this, and we're actually,
But when I looked last year, it wasn't written out like this.
no, this is new.
Okay.
This is brand new. So we're going to use this as kind of a baseline. And truly what prompted me to look for something like this was Pastor Mark's classes. Because there's some real personal things that people write about. Unfortunately, it's not done in a way that is clear. And he wants to help people be able to clarify what they're writing and do it well. And so the best way to do that is to set expectations ahead of time. So if you want an A on everything you write, you need to look at the number 4 column. That's exactly what your paper better look like. You better have a thesis statement placed correctly, restated in the closing paragraph, 3 supporting ideas briefly mentioned in your paragraph, no grammar errors. Now, if you have a little grammar error, you might get a 3. But
Is that the commas?
yes. That's not, the goal in here is not to pick apart everything so badly, it's to get you enjoying writing. Because if you're gonna finish out this year, you're gonna have to write a few more papers. So, let's see, discuss, did that. So, all right, all that, we can put that aside now. I'd like to start out the class by asking this question. When you hear me say, I want you to tell me the first thing that comes to your mind, maybe the first 1 or 2 words, or maybe a word or a phrase that comes to your mind when you hear the words writing class. You're going to take a writing class. What was your first reaction?
Spelling, commas, and question marks.
Spelling, commas.
You're looking at it.
Your face.
Excited.
Excited.
English, grammar.
That's the first thing in your head.
I thought that's so high school.
That's so high school. I like it. So we have a mix of. So what's the feeling behind that?
That we're beyond that.
Okay.
We're adults now. We're not children.
Okay.
So English comp doesn't seem like it fits a writing,
Okay.
I
That's good. I want to hear this.
I just
I
feel
enjoy
like
it.
writing, that it just needed to be more precise, I think.
Okay.
The title. Just
Okay.
only because we're adults.
Okay.
Well, and then mine goes back to the English professor that I had. He didn't want any to be verbs. The bigger the word, the better he liked it. You needed to write precise, and he required a lot. He would put people's
So
papers.
tough.
He would put people's papers up on the board the first few weeks of class and tear them apart. So
It's like boot camp, English boot camp.
he was tough.
Yeah.
I made either an A or a B in the class, but it was tough.
Huh, that's nice. You said excited.
I look forward to writings.
Okay.
I mean,
Do you
I
like
try-
to write in
I
general?
try to.
Okay. Good. And you're just thinking of all the mechanical stuff.
I'm thinking it's gonna be a challenge.
So because of the mechanical stuff, you're thinking
The
it's gonna
mechanical
be-
stuff, not knowing how to get my way around the computer as well as some of these people, and it's all new, but you know what? I am excited about learning something new, and God
Good.
will lead me to where I gotta be.
There you go.
I will pass this class.
Amen.
Amen. You will for sure. And you had the same. You had the mentality of like grammar and yay.
Yeah, because being a writer doesn't come first.
Okay.
I'm not a storyteller, that's what I keep telling people.
You are. You're
I
not.
know.
I don't feel like I'm a storyteller.
Really?
You ask me a question, I'm gonna give you an answer.
Yeah, I can see
I'm
that
not
about
gonna go
you.
around, beat around the bush and say, like Hagen's books that we read, I knew his story. He couldn't get out of bed and did this. I mean, every chapter, but you can take up his book, could have been this thick instead of that thick.
Right.
He took that out of the
Yes,
chapter.
I
So
hear what you're saying.
I'm not that guy.
Yes.
Writing's also a form of communication.
Yes.
So to me, it's kind of a choice.
Yes.
Some people like to write more, talk more, and
Text
Absolutely.
more
That's
instead
good.
of using the telephone.
Oh, that's good. So, what I like to do, as I told you, I have a teaching background, so I feel like it's good to lay out, first of all, it helps the teacher know, like, what do people need? And I think because this is a smaller class, it's easier for us to cover a whole bunch of stuff that we might not if it was a huge class, and it would be very, very structured. And but what I'd like to kind of do is talk about one thing something I use to help just get the class up off the ground is called a KWL chart. You can use them when you're in preschool all the way through college, and basically what you do is before you get moving into a new subject, you determine what you know about it, what you want to know, and what you are going to, or what you learn. So the third column of a KWL chart, I'll write one down. They took up my board with this thing, and I don't love it, sorry. But if you have a question and I can't get to it during class, I'll write it here and then we'll get to it later. But it took up my board, so. We'll actually use this for the K. It's gonna be our K. This is gonna be our W and L. So what we're gonna do just really quickly, I want you to just throw out words of things when you think of English, when you think of grammar, when you think of taking a writing class, all that. What are things that come to you? Just words. When you're thinking about English, grammar, writing, just one word.
Spelling.
Spelling, okay? What do you know about writing?
Proper.
Proper.
Punctuation.
Punctuation. Come on,
Flow.
Jim, throw something out. What'd you say, Joan? June?
Flow.
Sorry, flow. You know what I love about these is they're different every single time you do one with a group of people, different group of people. Anything else?
Topic sentence.
Topic sentence. Yeah, we kind of already covered a couple things, words that could have come to you, but when you think about it, what do you think of? Jim,
Hey, I'm still trying to catch up. I'm sorry, this is gonna be a challenge for me, so.
just about writing in English, what's something you already know about it? Just anything.
I know you gotta put commas in place, in the right place, and I don't know what comma, semicolon.
Did you say punctuation? You said
That is
punctuation.
punctuation, see, that's punctuation.
Commas.
Doesn't come up with commas to me.
Commas. Wait,
Legible.
Legible.
That's gonna be legible on a computer.
Very good. Use a legible font. Don't use
Required
pressure.
Hey,
new
Anyone else?
Romans 12.
All right. So as you are writing, you're in your classes over the next, 9 months? You're going to be asked to write on the book of, have you guys already done Galatians? Did you write about Galatians?
Yeah, we did.
Yeah, you've already done
prior
that?
class, yeah.
Okay. I don't know what classes you guys are in, so, are taking. But you're going to continue writing more and more. So what are some things you would, after writing some papers last year to this year, what would be some things you'd like to learn? What would you want to learn? What would you like to learn?
The topic of the subject being taught, I think it's the Bible, God's Word.
So you want to know what topic was being taught or written about?
Repeat your question.
Yeah,
Like, yeah,
I
the
mean,
shortcuts.
E-
I'd like to know the shortcuts, like the I before E. There's some
Oh,
shortcuts that
grammatical
you knew.
rule shortcuts
Yes.
like?
Yeah.
Oh. Really?
Yeah.
Hey, no, that's actually good. You're actually gonna find some of that. So, when you're taking this class, what would you like to learn? What would you want to know?
good formation
Good formation
or format.
or good format? We'll just put format, that's good. What else?
Strong. When I say stronger words, like better words.
Yeah, stronger vocabulary.
Yeah.
That's where your catharsis comes in.
Who?
Catharsis.
Shoot. 1980s when I graduated high school. I didn't have the book then. I don't now.
So those are some things you would like to know. You would want to learn. You would want to improve upon. So Jen, thinking about writing,
I
what
would
is something
like
you'd
to
like?
learn what they are trying to convey in them courses. I mean, each
Oh.
course, like this course here.
So
where-
you're going a little beyond this class. You're like
Yeah, I
getting a
mean,
little
that's
deep.
Ain't that the question you had?
Nope.
No.
What I'm asking is, when you're in this class and we learn anything in here in writing, what is something you would like to learn, want to learn? What could you do to improve? What is something you'd like to improve upon as
Learn
you
to
write?
do it right. I guess.
Need the footnotes and all that stuff, the, what do you call them?
So like a bibliography.
Works
Yeah,
cited,
works
that,
cited,
yeah. Yeah, because somebody threw in that and it was like, oh crap, I haven't done that in a long time.
Okay. Interesting. Yeah, that's good, and we will definitely be talking about that. So you want, and I think when you haven't written for a while, especially if you haven't written something that required sources, sourcing, we'll put that too. Because sourcing would include those little footnotes. If you haven't done something that requires some of that for a while, you do have to refresh yourself. I feel the English language, everybody knows, I think there are more rules and exceptions to the English language than any other language in the world, which makes it very daunting. And for someone like me, I learn pretty quick, but I get to that point where I'm like, forget it. There's always a rule, an exception to the rule, so what's the difference? And it was always that way, even when I was a music major. I wanted to write music that my theory teacher would not allow. And I'd be like, that sounds good. And he would say, you can't do it that way. And I would say, why not? And he'd say, because you just can't. I said, it sounds fine. It's pretty. It makes sense. But you don't understand why you're doing it that way. And I would get so frustrated because he wanted me to learn this foundational stuff, and there were always exceptions to the rule when you got up here. So there were all these exceptions up here, and I just wrote to the exceptions before I knew what they actually were. And so I'm like, if there's all these exceptions up here, why does it matter? Because he really wanted me to learn the foundation. And I think the same thing can happen in English. You learn how to speak, and we're going to get into that in a few minutes, so I need to be careful that I don't get ahead of myself. We learn how to speak before we learn how to write. And so we're almost working from the exceptions up here, because I before E except after C, and then there's a and da 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 da. I can't even say it right now. You use the word, you say receive and receipt and all these little words that are the exception to the rule up here before you ever learn the rule. And so it's like, it's tough to really embrace the English language and it's all of its mechanics. So I say all that to say, don't feel bad. And if you're not an amazing writer, don't feel bad. If you don't know all the rules, don't feel bad. You've made it. Have we all made it this long and this far in life without that? We have. And that's not to undermine education or the learning process. It's just to say, I think sometimes we stress ourselves out over things that in the long run are not going to matter. And that's what tonight my goal with you guys is to kind of change our thinking. And it might only be Jim that needs me to help him with this one. But to help to change our thinking on how we see the writing process and communicating through the written word. So let's see, let me make sure I'm sticking to notes. I have to be honest, this class is almost tougher for me. I have to make sure I'm using, for me to teach this next time around than it was the first time. Because the first time I was learning almost as I went in terms of like how to use all this and what I was going to say while I was teaching the class. And I was like, oh wait, I want to say it the same way I did last time, but what if I don't? So you might have to help me. So the goal of our first night is to change the way you think of writing and the writing process. We're on slide 2. We're going to discuss the link between speaking and writing and its impact on good communications. So, yes?
I didn't get the slides.
Oh, well, there you go.
I went to this table and that is she.
I took them away. I wasn't going to let you guys have them until the end, but then I realized everybody takes notes on them.
That might catch me up.
So, when you think about writing, you have to recognize that before you can really be a successful speaker, there has to come a point where you're able to write well also. You have to be, if nothing else, you have to be able to get your thoughts down on note cards or in a slide presentation. You have to be able to do that at some point with some success. And so everybody needs to find a place where they have at least some form of foundation for writing and doing it well, because it is the foundation for communicating. Before I think we're in a time where the technology is it has changed so much in the last couple decades that we've lost the art of communicating because there's so many forms of communication that can go on. And so you don't have to really know how to write well anymore, because you can, if you're texting, the text will sometimes change words you don't even want it to change, but it spells it correctly.
I did that recently.
I don't know why, but my phone changes the word talk to y'all every single time. So if I put talk to you later, it'll say y'all to you later. Like, that doesn't even make sense, smartphone. But because of that, because of all these different things that we have, tools at our hands, we don't write anymore. And just 5 decades ago, that's not 50 years ago, not even 50 years, just 30 years ago, people wrote letters Mark used to write me love letters 22 years ago. So, and that was only 2 decades ago. But now we just text, or now it's gotten to the point where people don't even text words, they just text pictures of emojis and stuff. I'm guilty. And so, because of that, I think we're in a place where I sometimes feel concerned for my kids. I'm like, gosh, are my children going to know how to communicate by the written word? I don't know if they're going
Only
to.
by text, so they don't know how to talk.
It's so
You
odd.
cannot use a telephone as a telephone anymore.
Right.
It's a teletext.
But it's going to be okay.
Spend 20 minutes to get one answer.
Yes, it's just strange to me.
And my daughter tells me, you have no emotion when you write me back. She has to call me if she wants the emotion. Because she'll tell me, well, I went through this and this and this, and I go, okay, that's good. I don't like.
But inside you have emotion, you just don't text it.
Of course I do.
Yeah.
I just don't text it. If I was
Yeah.
talking to her on the phone, she'd hear the emotion
Right.
fine.
Yes.
But we're not even teaching writing in school anymore, so that's why I'm not sure why we don't teach the kids to write as they grow up, but yet as they get older or become adult, now we make it as if it's important, and we miss all that time.
Well, I think we do teach it, it's just not being absorbed. I had a wonderful English teacher and I didn't learn a single thing from her. But I know her now as an adult and I'm like, oh, I really missed out on you. Like she was a gem and I just missed it because I didn't think it was important. And I think that we get to that place where it's whether or not it's important to us. And so that's where the changing our thinking comes in. So we're going to go off of a couple things tonight. Off of 2 assumptions. We're going to base everything we talk about over the next several weeks over 2 assumptions. The first one is writing is a reasonable activity. I think we can all agree that writing is a reasonable activity. Reasonable. You have to know how to write to survive. You just do. Even if it's very basic writing, that I told myself as a homeschool mother, if I can just do 2 things, that is help my children read and help my children write, if they can do those 2 things. Now I know it sounds really weak, but when you're getting ready to homeschool a bunch of kids, you have to set really low expectations because you never know what you're going to get. And they're your kids. Now when I'm a school teacher, I have a curriculum I have to stick to, and it's really not, I shouldn't say it that way. It is not on me whether or not my kids in my class at that point ever learned anything. If they failed out, it was not on me. I was doing my job, and if they chose not to, just like I chose not to embrace that one teacher I said was a gem, that wasn't on her. That was on me and then on my parents. She didn't lose any sleep over the fact that I was a goofy little teenage girl. But my own kids, I was like, okay, I'm laying the bar low here. As long as they can read and write, I know they can survive in this world. And if they can read and write, they can read anything I hand them. And they can write what they need down. So those are my 2 criteria. All of my children can read and write. And they can do other things well now too because they know how to read and write. Yes.
That's not a low bar.
No, it isn't.
Reading, writing, and arithmetic.
No, it isn't. And that's why that used to kind of be our baseline. And it still is, really.
It is.
It still is our
And you don't have
baseline.
good arithmetic because you got a computer, it's got a calculator.
You need to take a class to learn how to use these things, though. So
Well, if you can find a calculator,
yes, okay. So we have to all agree that writing is a reasonable activity. The next thing is we have to believe that writing is a valuable activity. That's where most people will say, yes, of course, writing is a reasonable activity. But then you go to the next 50% of those people will drop off when writing is a valuable activity. Not really. People will say that. No, I don't think it is. Which we can say in this class, you're not allowed to say you don't think it's valuable. Just pretend you think it is, even if you don't. Okay, so it is a valuable activity. It is a reasonable activity. Writing is a way of growing. Our growth as learners depends on our capacity to understand and use language. We all know this to be truth because if you go to a country where you cannot speak their language, you see very quickly how valuable language is. You see very quickly how valuable it is to be able to understand and communicate with people in their own language. You really quickly will notice that, which is why it's sad when our literacy rate is so low, because even though young people may be able to communicate by talking, when they get out on the By the way, I know you may be thinking, what does this have to do with writing? I promise I'm going somewhere with this. Education and the good writer. Education has an impact on how well you write. Whether you made it through 6th grade, whether you made it through being a senior in high school, whether you got your bachelor's degree and you've sat through English composition class, you've written papers, you met your Gordon rule. All of that, those things do. I was not as good of a writer when I graduated high school as I was when I graduated from UCF. First of all, my major at UCF was as a history major. I had to write we were writing 25-page papers, not 2-page papers. So when I came here, I'm like, I can handle this. I can write 2-page papers all day long. And so you had to learn really quickly how to get on topic and stay there. You had to learn very quickly how to state your thesis and actually support it. Or else guess what? Big fat F. Or at school, they'd usually give you a D. They wouldn't fail you because at least, if you've written 25 pages of nonsense, you've at least tried. But that doesn't mean you did well. So your educational level really does impact how well you write. We're starting to see some shifts in that as young people are graduating college, though, because there are young people graduating with liberal arts degrees who cannot write. And so I don't know how they manage, but they don't write well at all. And so we're seeing a shift in that, and I really think it has a lot to do with technology, because they're not forced to have to communicate well through the written word. So that does. So I thought I'd ask this question. Do you believe you received what you need to be a successful writer up until this point in your life? I think you kind of said you did. Do you feel like you have? Just for most. Jim, I think
maybe
you.
45 years ago, but how much of it stuck probably.
Because you probably don't write a lot at this
I
point.
have never written,
Yeah. Before now? Before being in this school?
before coming to school, I've never had to write a paper.
There you go.
I made it through high school.
Yeah,
But that's what I made it through high school.
exactly.
That was more, sorry.
Oh, our bell?
It was more adjectives, nouns, verbs,
You
learning
remember
that
the
stuff
grammar.
than put it where it belonged and how to set up a paper. They might have had a brief thing to say, well, you got to do your, they had this like A, B, 1, 2, 3.
Oh, your outline.
Yeah.
Isn't it funny the things we remember?
That's all I remember.
We remember outlines and grammar, yes.
Yeah.
So we're gonna come back, we'll take a few minutes if everybody wants to just take a couple minutes, go to the bathroom. I'm gonna heat up my coffee and then we'll come back. Does that work?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Thank you.
Pause.